30 minutes for this conversation, and I think when I was preparing to come here, I thought this is a really big ask. It's a lot, there's a lot happening. So to each of you, the question is, if we know this big thing that we're trying to achieve, and we've got such a short period of time to try to get there, what needs to happen to make that future a reality? Emilie?
I think that intellectual capital is the most important element that we're missing in the energy transition right now. We need to gather every single smart person from the top of all of the industries, not just mining and metals, but cross-disciplinary, and bring them all together and focus on what needs to be done. And the second is really collaboration. We need to collaborate with other countries. We need to collaborate with scientists from different disciplines. Polymer scientists need to talk to battery scientists, and we need the opportunity and someone to facilitate it. And I feel in my short time in Saudi Arabia that the kingdom is so organized, so nurturing, and so serious that this is a place where change can happen.
Wow, okay. I agree. Don?
I'm going to answer this within the framework of mining and actually the supply chain for the energy transition, which of course is begun with digging out the minerals. And it's a daunting problem. And I just want to remind people what the problem is. I mean, what are we trying to push up against? And it's a changing global environment. We've got changes in the atmosphere with rising CO2 levels. We've got changes in the pH of the oceans. So I would put all of those under the umbrella of chemical injury. That's what we're trying to push back against, is to correct chemical injury. And to my reasoning, there's only one remedy for chemical injury. It's a chemical remedy. So we have to change their processes, our choices of materials, and all of the things that people have talked about here. And within the context of mining, you can't do everything all at once. I forgot.
Okay, Don, so if you can't do everything all at once, what are you going to do first?
That's it. We prioritize. So we go after the low-hanging fruit. We know where emissions come from in the mining operations with all those diesel-operated tools and so on. We can very simply electrify those. It's just, as other people have said on this panel, the commitment, the resources, the determination, we know where they are. And then downstream in the metallurgical operations, the conversion of ores into metal products, very pollution intensive. We know where the pollution comes from. We know where we have to make the remedies. Structure it and knock those problems off one by one. If we say we want to do everything all at once, I don't have the answer for that one. There's a saying about kinetics. Kinetics is the measure of the rate at which processes occur. And somebody once quipped, kinetics is nature's way of making sure everything doesn't happen all at once.
Emilie, you brought up the topic of courage and the essential need for certain skills. We see them to an extent in many aspects in the mining sector, but we're also recognizing broadly the point that you made, that we have to ensure that the skills that we're developing and building now are actually future purposeful.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And I think, that requires a whole shift in our education system. For example, you cannot go to a university in the United States right now and learn how to make a battery. So we're starting a program in Boston to teach local people and start to train a local workforce of technicians. Is that something investors like, knowing that you're spending some of their money to build something like this? No, but you just say this has to be done and you have some courage, right? You have to empower people that work for you and you have to turn them into leaders. And that's why I think one of the many reasons Professor Sadoway and his companies are so successful. He makes people courageous and leaders. But we need more of inspirational people in government, and we need more entrepreneurs that are not afraid. We need more investors that are okay. And these big companies, I'd like to see some courage and leadership from large mining companies and like to see them make a change. We have Robert Friedland, who's very courageous and is committed to change, and I think that it would be nice to see a lot of the larger mining companies actually follow in his footsteps.
Don, while we're on the topic of education, you work in a space where your very job is to invent, to create, to think differently about the world that we live in. What is it that we need to start fostering in young people to ensure that we cultivate that curiosity, that willingness to create, which we sometimes can lose in the process of requiring people to think quite rigidly?
Well, it's exactly what you just pointed to. In the educational system, we have to have room for dreaming and for asking young people already to take what they've been taught, the mathematics, the physics, the chemistry, and to devise and design, to impress upon them that each and every one of them can be a designer, and get them to start to, it's not about inculcating. I don't see the educational model as the student comes to me as an empty vessel and I'm going to pour this magical fluid in and top it up. It's polar opposite. They come to me ready, and all I do is I give them the key that they can unlock themselves. And it's all about unlocking that human potential.
When you leave here, Saudi Arabia, the one thing that you want to ensure you do when you get back home to play your part in delivering this future is going to be what? Emilie?
I feel that when I'm going to go back, I'm going to spend more of an effort on connecting with other women in the space. I was very impressed with Saudi Arabia, who had a target of 35% women in the workforce by 2030 and now have 27%. And I think that engagement and networking of women will only help that grow more. And I've seen this change. If you guys can do this here in Saudi Arabia, we should be able to do it in the mining space overall.
To play your part in delivering this future is going to be what?
I'm going to look more deeply into role that I can play with my knowledge of electrochemistry and accelerating change in the mining sector.